It is.
It's not good.
All right. Meeting will come to order of the Belmont Planning and Zoning Board. Chair will entertain a motion to set the agenda.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye, and opposed, no, the ayes have it. Everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from last time? Send in additions, deletions, corrections? Motion to accept, please. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second. Any further discussion, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, good. Public items about the lights here. Sign Ordinance Amendment, return a request to amend chapters 10 and 2 of the LDC to allow for halo-lit backlit signs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's read into the record. This is a request to amend Chapter 2 and 10 of the Land Development Ordinance, specifically to address the sign ordinance. The purpose is to allow a certain type of internally illuminated signs in our downtown area. We are focusing on reverse lit channel letter signs. So the amendment includes an amendment of Chapter 2, which we wanted to put in a definition of these types of signs. We are looking to standardize the terminology of Chapter 10. The reverse lit channel letter signs are often referred to as backlit, halo lit signs, so our ordinance previously just referred to it as a halo lit. So while reviewing Chapter 10, we found that some clarification was needed in the table as well as to when a sign program is required. So while we were in the chapter looking at amending it, we decided to put that in. So first of all, I'm going to start out, you may recall that this isn't the first time we've discussed internally lit channel letters or backlit signs. We did an amendment of the sign ordinance probably about 2 years ago to allow for it in these types of signs in the T&D zone, and it was specifically for the Harris Teeter Shopping Center. They wanted to have some form of internally lit signs, and so we did an amendment, and it applies to all T&Ds. Well, over the past couple of years, we continue to have business owners ask about being allowed to have some kind of internally illuminated sign within our downtown district. So this amendment is focused on our downtown areas, which are the zoning districts in our downtown. It's neighborhood center commercial and the downtown district. Our ordinance currently prohibits internally illuminated signs in the downtown districts, and it references the area specifically by the downtown master plan area that's in our comp plan. So you'll see that stricken out of the chapter. So I did a little research, and I've looked at historic pictures, and we actually, at some point in time, whether it was pre-zoning in Belmont, did allow internally illuminated signs. We have old historic pictures of the Belk sign that was projecting. I think it had neon in it, and there's still remnants of internally illuminated signs we can find in the downtown area now. So at some point, we did allow it, and I'm not sure, we couldn't really track back when we struck it from the ordinance. But again, we're here tonight because we wanted to open the door to allow these types of signs. Now, internally illuminated signs come in various styles and different types of illumination. You have your basic cabinet sign, which you can see in the upper left is usually a square box. You either have a panel or a cabinet that wraps around the box and illumination comes out. It's usually clear light. On the right, that's an example of internally illuminated channel letters. The lower left is a channel letter that's referred to as a open face, and it has neon in the center. And then the one on the lower right is the subject of tonight's amendment. We're looking at what we call reverse lit channel letters. They are designed, you can see in the center here, where they usually have an aluminum face and sides and the acrylic on the backs, the light source, which can be neon or LED, comes out the back, so it lights the back of the wall. It can produce color, like the Google sign on the right, or just simply the white light, but the illumination does not come out of the front of the sign. Now, many people refer to these signs, again, as a halo lit. They produce a glow, and they actually think they look more elegant than the typical internally illuminated sign or sophisticated type of illumination. So that is what's proposed here tonight. Staff, I do want to share that the Main Street Advisory Board did recommend approval to this board and to the City Council for this amendment. They represent our downtown business owners. We did also do some research of other jurisdictions, and I specifically want to look at jurisdiction regulations where they have a historic downtown. Now, I found a mix of sign ordinances out there. Some allowed internal illumination. When they did, it was this type of lighting, the halo lit or the reverse channel lit signs. Some are consistent with our ordinance today. They only allow externally lit, meaning there's a light, gooseneck light or something that shines on the sign. So they're mixed out there, but I did find that the historic districts, like the town of Matthews, it says it prohibits internal illumination except for when it's backlit like this. So I did find some examples out there. Staff does believe that this is a reasonable request and consistent with the goals of the comprehensive land use plan because it promotes goal 4, community character, by allowing flexibility in sign illumination for the business community while protecting and enhancing the character of downtown Belmont. The second finding is a reasonable request in the public interest because it supports the business community by considering the potential illumination and aesthetics of the historic downtown area. So with that concludes my presentation. I'll be glad to...
Could you back up to that one slide that's got the 4 of them on there, please?
The 4, yes.
4 signs? Did I understand you to say that the only one that's not allowed right now is the lower right?
No, what's not allowed in the downtown are any
All of those? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We do not allow internally illuminated signs. So all of our signs currently have light fixtures that
Okay.
shine on them.
So the wording is for multi-tenant buildings, sign berm required for the multi, and shall be limited to reverse channel letter sign
So
or
the-
externally illuminated.
That's correct. So
So are these all
that means-
considered reverse channel letter? All those?
No, only the lower right.
Right, that's so. Okay, so are
Right.
those other 3 already in the code somewhere?
Right now, so let me try to clarify this one. So right now, every district but the downtown district, that's the NCC and the DD, can have any type of that internally
Okay.
illuminated sign. So it's allowed in our
Right.
HC,
Right,
all the
right.
other districts, except the TND, that would be
Okay.
the Harris Teeter. It only allows the lower right. In our downtown, we don't allow any internal illumination. We only allow external, which means they're typically the gooseneck
Okay,
lights that
so
shine
we're
on
going to
it.
expand it just to include the,
Just include
Okay,
the
good.
lower right one,
Okay.
period.
got it.
I have
So-
a question.
Yeah,
In this paperwork that we read, it said that the city has received multiple requests over the years to allow for internal illumination. So I was just wondering, with this approval, do you foresee some of those persons coming back and say, well,
well,
okay?
that's not the type of illumination I want. Well, sure, they can
Yes.
say that, but, you know, what we find is you open the door slowly, and again, we want to really protect the character of the historic district. And I do think the reverse lit or the halo lit in the lower right does give a soft glow. You can still see the sign. that people will take advantage of. Right now, in fact, the latest request was from Jekyll and Hyde, which this is their sign over in Matthews. So they came in, they are getting ready to upfit 10 Catawba, and they submitted their sign permit, and I'm like, no, sorry, you can't have any external illumination. They were just shocked by that. And again, we've had Nellie's requested it when they came in, and there's been a few other businesses, I think Belmont Specialties down here, when they did the projecting sign, they wanted to give it that soft glow, and so we've really had quite a few requests, and you know, technology has advanced. I mean, this type of sign has been around for quite a while. A lot of people don't like doing it because it is costly. It's the most expensive type of sign you can actually post or put out. But I think it would fit within the downtown. It will make the business community happy, and it can fit within our downtown.
Does anybody have an open sign inside downtown?
Oh, sure,
But
yeah.
you can do that inside the building?
You can do it inside the building,
Oh.
so,
Okay.
Like Luna
So-
has that.
I
Yeah.
thought so.
yeah, a lot of people have
String
the
bean
open
has that.
It's
signs.
not, if it's outside the building, they can be restricted by that.
Right,
Okay.
and so if you notice the new real estate company over here, they
Which I
have their, some kind of little play
Touchpad.
computer thing that's in the window, but it
Yeah,
emits
okay.
quite a bit of light, so, yeah.
I have one suggestion to the wording.
Yes, yes, sir.
Move the word only from where it
Okay.
appears now to in front of the word to.
To only,
Only
Okay.
to these two things, only do this or that.
Okay.
Because where it is now, it's this only, or it's something else. And it just
Okay.
kind of is a little, and it appears that way everywhere.
okay.
Just a suggestion.
Okay. Are there any other recommendations?
Is there any, I don't know if you can even gauge it or control it, but the amount of light that it puts out, or how many
Well-
lumens, or?
Yeah, most of these, again, they can be backlit with neon, but typically they're not because it's more expensive. They use LED. I mean, we could look into that. They're pretty soft glow. I mean, some of the, if you go down the street, some of the external lights are almost like little floodlights. It's really, so I really think
It's going to soften it.
it will soften it, but you know, we can look into that if you'd like us to.
I just am looking at that sign compared, all the other ones, and I, like the Google looked softer, that just looks kind of.
Well, it could be the angle that
Really
this was
good.
Plus
taken
it's
on
the white
too.
too, the white jumps out. Yeah.
So here's another example here. So this one, I think actually, let me go back here. This one here, I think looks bright because I did look at the building, and I think this one's actually internal to the Matthews site, not external, and it has some lighting in their entryway pointing down on it, so it has external lights and it's internally illuminated.
So I assume Mount Holly allows it, because don't they have one at the, that new restaurant's gonna have one, I noticed it. So these could be on, that one like hangs off the side of the building.
Projecting.
Yeah, can that be?
Yes, so
Part of
like
that
the
too?
Belmont Specialty,
Mhm.
they could do it with that, which would be nice. And that's how, well, the Belk used to be, I think, neon.
Any more questions for staff? All right. Chair will entertain a motion to accept the sign ordinance amendment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Next order of business is
You have
ex-
to-
Do that.
The statement of consistency.
Oh, correct. Yes, we
Do we
don't
need
have
it?
Jim here.
Jim said?
Yes, because this is a text amendment, just like the rezone, it's a
All right.
legislative act, we need to not only.
Chair will entertain a
Yeah.
motion.
I was gonna say, go back to that slide that actually
Yes,
had
that
it
will
on
be
it. Help us out
the
here.
required findings right there,
Oh, yeah.
that consistent.
Oh, yeah, I'll read it. Oh, that's cool. I can do it. I won't be as good as Jim, but
He's got that one down, doesn't he?
okay. Let's see. I move that the
Yes.
text amendment is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan because it promotes goal 4, the community character, by allowing flexibility in the sign illumination for the business community while protecting and enhancing the character of downtown Belmont. And it is a reasonable request in the public interest because it supports the business community while considering the potential illumination and aesthetic of the historic downtown area.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passes as well.
Thank you, Jamie.
Would that
Thank you.
include the Chronicle when it comes down?
Yes.
Because that's
Yeah,
all
that's
the
a
downtown
downtown
district.
district, right?
Don't hold your breath.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So, Mr.
I don't know if they
Chairman,
hold that long.
before the next item,
Yes.
I guess I should have suggested this under setting the agenda. I'd like to do a quick project update before we get into the
Sure.
discussion item. This
We'll
will
amend
just
the
take a
agenda.
minute.
Amend the agenda accordingly.
So I just wanted to do a quick update on where some of the projects are that you see and have made recommendations to council. So the upper left is the Home 2 Suites. Their construction plans are conditionally approved, so they're just at the point where we're going to have a pre-construction meeting and move forward and let them start breaking ground. And of course, that is the hotel that's proposed off of Holly Avenue near the Lofton Apartments. So that was a conditional zoning, correct? Yes, so it did come before you. Another conditional zoning.
Maybe a little more brief.
Yeah, on North Main Station, that's a 6,000 square foot retail space designed to mimic or take design features from the historic train depot down at Glenway and Main Street. They have actually pulled all of their permits. We've had the pre-construction meeting, and recently heard this morning they're looking at doing a groundbreaking ceremony in August. So they're looking to start breaking ground on that very quickly. Now, the lower left is something you haven't seen, but you're familiar with the project. This is the proposed dental office that is currently under development at the Harris Teeter Shopping Center, Belmont Town Center, right next to the gas station parcel. So,
Steals up.
so that is currently under construction. The middle school, if you haven't been by there, please go by there. It's pretty amazing. They're vertical on it already. It's moving along quickly. Their goal is to have it open, I think, the fall of 2020, if I'm not mistaken. So they are moving along. The city is working with them on their water and sewer infrastructure as well right now. So I wanted to mention this one, anticipated projects. So this project was actually part of a conditional zoning years ago. It's at McKee Farms Road. Is that an alarm or something? Oh, weather, okay. McKee Farms and South Point Road right across from Belmont Town Center. So this is adjacent to the middle school. So with the middle school coming online, that re-sparked some interest, and this is called South Point Commons, and this was something already approved. They still have to revise their construction plans, but it will include a retail space. There's a dental office back there now, some retail space, and a daycare facility is the larger building backed by the neighborhood. So we're anticipating this one coming in. We've met with them many times. Aberfall, townhouses and Riverside flats. Lower right's an actual nice photograph of what's going on out there right now. The 3 apartment buildings are all currently being leased. They have received their COs. The townhomes are the fastest selling townhomes, I believe, in Belmont. They're going very quickly. The only ones that remain are the ones across from the waterfront in the back of the apartments. And I think we just let them apply for them recently. So it's come online actually fairly quickly.
Have the neighbors softened in?
Well, I think they've softened a little more than while they were under construction and all that. The initial, that was very painful. Of course, we had all the rain, so
Most
that
of them
didn't
don't own
help.
them. That's
So,
why they're so bad.
They're nice looking apartments.
You know, I think until
That's
they're
the ones
actually
who were
done and
loudest.
things settle, and there's no more runoff or construction, you know, then, we are seeing a lot of revitalization in the area. So people are buying up some of the lots on the adjacent streets and surrounding and upfitting the homes. So,
Too much traffic.
so I think they came out fairly nice.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did.
So,
The leasing agent told me it was the fastest leasing apartment complex they own anywhere.
really?
Who's the owner?
More than 50% the other day. I can't remember.
The
when he
apartments,
said that,
I
yeah.
can't remember.
And,
When I talked
You
to
know.
them, they said that it's not the demographic they thought they were going to be.
yeah. They-
It's a
they
different
agree.
demographic.
It's not as many of the young professionals as they thought, yet.
It's because they don't know it.
They don't know where it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think
I
they
think some
even,
of those young professionals are buying the townhomes.
some.
Yeah. So Lofton Apartments, and this is very, very close to coming online. It looks beautiful.
It is better.
It's 100 apartment units, and we expect it to come get its CO in
Tuesday.
Tuesday. There you go. So they're very nice, very nice. They came out nice. Laurel Walk, of course, that's the residential component of the Belmont Town Center. Now, one thing I like about their photo here is that you can look past behind where those houses are even further, and that is Town Square. That is 84 residential units that they're still in the infrastructure stage. So they're moving a lot of dirt from that site and putting in the infrastructure, but it's still moving along. And of course, Laurel Walk
Jane says, moving dirt.
is moving along with their townhomes, not selling as quickly as Aberfall.
And they're only, because they're $50,000 more
Are they?
to start. They're $250, where Aberfall started at $200.
Yeah. But Aberfall's getting close to 300 for their townhomes, or 280.
The bigger ones,
The
but
bigger ones?
the small one
Mhm.
is 202, and their
Okay.
small one is 248, and it works
Really?
up from there, but, yeah.
Oh, that's, yeah. Really? I didn't realize
So
it
far,
was that
yeah.
much. So,
Is the other still to be rental, the 84?
as far as we know,
I get a
yes,
lot of questions about that.
yes. They still have to, so although they're doing their infrastructure, they still have to come back. We don't know the builder. They still have to come back and get their architectural review approved before they can plat and move forward, so. Let's see, Belmont Crossing, that's 34 townhomes on Keener in East. On Keener between Arlstow and East. And they got the first two buildings, have gone vertical there, and they just submitted another plat to try to get a couple more buildings going. Haven't heard about the price point for those. Yeah. Morgan's Branch, 153 lots, I believe, that have been platted. Now, this development has gone through a lot of changes with different owners, AV Homes, Montero Builders, and now Morris Taylor, and they've all like bought out each other and thinking they have the same product ultimately. So they're about, I'd say, 60% built out. What they do is they do a lot of spec homes. So though it may look like it's closer to 70, 80% built out, a lot of the spec homes are for sale. They're not unoccupied. So they're on their last phase in the very back here. McLean, well, McLean is still doing very well. I want to say the fastest single family development that seems to be coming online is the Conservancy. They're complete with phase 1. They're moving quickly on phase 2, and it seems to be an older population, a lot of empty nesters, people from Charlotte moving to Belmont. South Shore is, please go through there. I mean, maybe we should do a little tour. The custom homes in there, they're really filling in. It's beautiful out there, South Shore. So it's filling in nicely. Overlake, they're doing very well. We have Evans Coghill and Shea Homes in the Conservancy. It's Essex and MI Homes. And in South Shore, we have about 5 different custom builders. They have submitted their plans. I'll show you in a minute. In the lower right, kind of pink area, right adjacent to New Hope Road, that's the marina area. They have submitted their plans for the marina. It will include 2 large dry dock facilities, a sit-down restaurant, and a commercial in this nice green.
Dry dock facility?
Yeah, so storage, dry storage.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry, dry storage.
Forklift them in and out.
Okay.
So, dry storage facility.
Yeah. They won't have that pier in for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking to the guy the other
Really?
day, because we've been using that site for our river sweep every year, and he said it's not going to be ready this
They
year.
got about 34 slips, I think, approved.
Oh, is that right? That's
Yeah.
good.
Down in that area. This is the marina. The construction plans are in the yellow area, represent where they want to do a nice restaurant, sit-down restaurant, parking in between. The blue would be a retail office type of building. Pink is what is simply going to be overflow parking, but the 2 large buildings in the middle, that's the dry storage facilities, and then they'll have a little store there on a green. So we're expecting the last revision to come in where we can approve their construction plans. So that's moving along. Tower Crest at the corner of Oak in South Main. This was approved for 12 single-family homes. The plans were approved. They were having trouble, I guess, based on how construction costs have gone up and such, that they've gone back and they are actually reducing the lots to 10 lots so they can reduce their impervious and things get smaller and so forth. Some of the requirements get smaller. And so we would expect them to probably get the revised plans done within the next month or so. So they would start breaking ground on those 10 homes.
So that plan still shows the 12.
That one does,
Okay.
yeah, that still shows the 12, but the lots will be a little larger, there'll be 10 lots, all alley fed as well, so. Chronicle Mill is still moving along. Melissa is the project planner on this, and we're waiting for the TIA to come in, the traffic study to come in. They are still working to progress their plans from a sketch plan to a schematic plan. This will come before the board in the form of a conditional zoning. And so,
Again?
Yes. Yeah, they're going to need some relief on that, the height and so forth. So right now, so remember they originally got a conditional zoning approved. Then they rescinded that and just went for a straight downtown district. So right now it has conventional zoning.
So they rescinded the action we took, and
Yeah,
the city council took?
Yes, so, yes, they did. It went through the proper process.
I'm sure they did,
so-
but then, I didn't know they did that. So-
Well, yeah, their zoning came back to you.
So we did it twice.
Yes, so we've rezoned this property since I've been here twice.
Okay.
The first time was to do a BCD conditional district, and that's when they were gonna do it all commercial. There wasn't a residential component to it. It was gonna be all commercial, it was gonna have an amphitheater.
How long ago was that? Several years?
That's the original
Yeah.
one. So
Or, that was the
4.
original one,
Yeah.
maybe 4 years.
Oh, okay.
About 4 years ago, we had a BCD conditional district, and they just could not get financing.
Right,
They couldn't
okay, so then we
find
did it
anyone.
again.
So then we, changed the zoning to the downtown district, which allows that mixed use, so they could have
Yeah.
multifamily. And so it's just a conventional downtown district
Yeah.
on there, and because they need certain factors, they have to request a conditional district.
So what's different from when they came before us before? What part of their?
The proposed use and design of it, so.
So I asked this question to one of the county, or one of the city council members before. And it just seems to me that we being the city, this group, is pandering because of money that the builder can't afford to raise. And I'm not sure that's right. It's one thing to say, here, we did this, now go, oh, now he's coming out, I can't do it because I gotta spend more money, so in order to do this, I gotta have, could you please change the rules?
That's not the case in this circumstance, so.
I thought it was before.
So they worked with a planning consultant who, at that time, did a master plan for the Chronicle property, saying that they believed it could all be commercial, amphitheater, and so forth. There was no residential component, nor could it really, I think in the VCD, it wasn't allowed either. So at the time, their master plan, it already had VCD, but they did conditional because they thought they were going to make this work. They tried and tried and tried, and what they found is the market didn't support what their master plan had laid out. It just didn't support it, and it still doesn't support it.
The investors. When
Well,
you say the
yeah.
market, it's the people who are going to invest.
It's not only the investors, but it's the users. So, no one's going to invest in anything if you can't fill up a retail center. No one's going to build a brand new mall if
That's right.
malls
Nobody's
are
going to invest
thrown
unless you
away.
change it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Right.
getting at.
Yeah,
So it sounds to me like we're changing the rules so they can get investors. And I'm not sure that's altogether proper.
But that's actually the way development works.
You follow the market.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you have a piece of property and you're trying to figure out how to utilize that property to its highest and best use. And if the zoning either doesn't allow that, and then essentially, if the market doesn't allow you to build something there because the zoning and the market don't align, then you got to rezone it. And so it sounds like what happened here is they had a market analysis that said that really going commercial would be a viable way to go. So they rezoned it that way, and when they went out there and they tested that idea, it didn't work. It just didn't pan out. And so now they're saying, oh, well, really in order to best utilize the property, we have another idea.
You need to be mixed use. You
Yeah.
need to have a residential component that supports the commercial component.
So this will be the third go-around.
I think you're all saying the same thing, just how you want to chew it and swallow it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think
I think you're exactly right.
And we all look at it from a different perspective. I'm a planner,
I
I
just
see
don't-
what the market does.
I'm just questioning, I'm happy to do it. I'm questioning the legality of it. That's my question.
Well, they go through the legal process every
Yeah,
time.
what's-
You have your chance of saying no.
Right.
Yeah, I just didn't know.
If it's not right for the city will say no. I mean, right?
Yeah, that's not right.
Yes.
Have they discussed at all phasing? Or my question is, what's going to happen to the mill?
Well, the mill is the main component. They're going to take off the front 35 feet.
Yeah, but I can see them building what they can sell, which is the apartments, and the mill still sit there.
Well, the apartments are in the mill component too.
So they are going to put apartments in the mill.
So it's all to go together at once.
They all
It's
go
all
together.
one
So
So
project.
is it really
apartment
mixed
use.
use, or is it mainly apartment?
One of the apartment building that's new. Yeah.
Putting the cart
Yeah,
before the
so the
horse.
street level is going to be commercial, the upper level of the existing, I'm talking about the existing Chronicle, will be residential, then the basement level is anticipated to be commercial, like a brewery, and so forth. And then this new building that sort of wraps around it is multifamily. So I haven't done a calculation on the percentage of uses based on the space, but it is anticipated to be true mixed use.
So this is gonna come back here.
It's going
We
to
can
come
So
discuss
back.
right now, this
right.
was FYI.
Yeah.
Right, so this is just to let you know, it's still in the works, it's coming back, it's gonna come through as a conditional zoning. They're not changing the downtown designation, they're keeping that, they just need to go conditional to help their project fit.
So we'll have a chance to discuss it
And get more
when it comes back.
Well,
it mostly
that's
high?
like, you know, most of our, like, I'll pick up some of our other projects, like Lofted, no, is that a CUP or conditional zone? But when they ask for an extra height,
And so that's what this is, right?
That's
The
what it
number
is.
one issue is gonna be height.
they
So
need to go higher, right? They need to go higher, they stepped it
that's gonna be
back.
what it is.
And this
So-
allows the city to look at it on a case-by-case basis where it may fit here appropriately.
Because the
Where
height
the
is already
alternative would be to
right.
have it by right in our building form, to maybe allow 5 stories. Maybe we don't want that everywhere, but we want the ability to look at it on a case-by-case basis to make sure it fits.
Hence the conditional
So
result.
that's why.
And it's conditional,
There's
right?
benefits.
So
Understand?
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say take off 2 stories.
Okay.
So, anyway, there you go. And that concludes my update.
Well, thank you.
Right.
How about, can I ask quickly,
Yes.
2 things I get asked a lot, across from Hawthorne,
Yes.
that property, is anything,
Nothing
imminent.
has been submitted. So we had an interested party 6 months ago or something, and they were taking corings around.
they did all that
there.
surveying, which got
And
everybody
They did all the
talking?
surveying,
Okay.
and then we never heard from them again. So there's nothing active as far as we
There's been
know.
some more
Which
activity
one?
down in there.
Across
We
from
don't know.
Hawthorne,
We don't
behind
know.
Sammy's, that
At
piece.
the
Oh,
end of
yeah,
Airline.
the old, there's an old mill property.
There was, they
Yeah,
tore all that
Imperial,
down, right?
that's
The
old
Imperial?
Imperial Mill site, yes.
Okay.
So,
I heard rumblings about that
yeah,
site,
the
too.
Morris Apartments on Wilkinson, that was approved, on the Garrison property, all that. That's still moving forward, they're working on their construction plans now, getting ready to submit. They had a lot of extra survey to do, there's a lot of utilities there that they're trying to figure out, so.
And what about River Mist? is the
River
other
Mist,
one?
okay, actually, I talked to their team today. They called and they're trying to coordinate a meeting for the end of the month because they want to know how the traffic signal and alignment affects their entrance. I don't know who the builder is, they're coming to this meeting, but their plans are approved.
The weird
It's
triangle
a weird
one,
pie-shaped property
down South
between
Point.
Bellwood and
Bowen.
Bowen, right, between Bowen and the Bellwood neighborhood on
Those
the
are really,
South
west side of South Point. I had to go, wait.
you at least can turn
East
out
side.
to the right.
East side.
Oh, east side, that's right, that's
On the east
yes.
side. Because I saw that transaction anyway, that the bank had
Oh,
sold
yeah.
it. so.
Yeah, they did sell it and their plans are approved. They have to pull it by the end of this year, otherwise it's done.
Okay, so that's the urgency, is
That's
by the end of the
urgency
year.
is by the end of the year, yeah. So,
And then still Henry's Chapel is still off the table.
Henry's Chapel, I'll say that project is still shelved, you know.
Because of the
because of the
size
traffic.
and the traffic.
Yeah, related to the size and the traffic study, so it is on the shelf. I don't anticipate that moving forward. We haven't heard anything out of Worrells River since they received their approval, so they have not submitted anything.
So that's it.
Pretty much all of it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Let me get this up, here we go.
Okay, next item is the accessory dwelling units, a request to amend the land development code to modernize accessory dwelling unit regulations. And the piece of paper that I got said, make it conform to state law.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yes, so, as you
I
know.
think anything else, was there supposed to be anything else?
No,
Okay, good.
Yes, so as you know, staff has been working to implement the goals of the comprehensive land use plan. To implement those goals, we work on the items that are in the plan, and then bring them to you for action. So tonight we have a discussion item for your consideration, and that is a text amendment for accessory dwelling units. These are the secondary dwelling units allowed on residential properties that are currently allowed in our regulations under the name of rental cottage. So basically, we've looked at our regulations. Jamie and I have worked to do research, look at best practices in the area, and to look about what we need in Belmont and how to fit our needs and meet our goals. So we've looked at where we are, where we want to go, and what we want to accomplish, and how we're going to get there. So tonight, we'll talk first about where we are. Right now, we allow rental cottages by right, basically in these residential zoning districts, and they have to meet the accessory structure requirements found in Chapter 3 regarding size and setback limitations and requirements. And they also have to meet the special requirements found in Chapter 6. It's these requirements right here that are most in need of the update. Okay, basically our regulations are in need of modernization. For example, right now we require this dwelling unit to be constructed on the second story of an accessory structure. This can result in buildings being taller than they need to be otherwise.
What do you mean taller than they need?
Okay, so basically, our regulations right now require, the way it's written, for an accessory structure to have a garage, for example, on the lower floor, and the accessory dwelling to be on the second story. So instead of just allowing people to build on the first floor, we technically require it to be 2 stories, okay, right now. Well, that's one specific area that state law has changed. We can't dictate the room layout of a building. So for one thing, we need to modernize the language, bring it up to date with the current needs, but also to bring it into compliance with the state law, like we mentioned. So now that we have a little bit of context of what we are, where we are now, let's talk about where we want to be. In Chapter 6 of our comprehensive plan, there's several mentions of the opportunity for our residents to age in place. And I particularly like the language that says that we are to ensure the land development code permits and allows residents to age in place. Okay. We also like to provide a choice in housing opportunities. And we work to allow affordable housing options in Belmont. So how does this text amendment meet those goals? And what are the benefits potentially to our residents? Well, the benefits of this text amendment is that we could create income opportunities for property owners. But the thing is, with the changing and updating of our language, it does not have to be a rental situation. Okay, it can be, it does not have to be. By this text amendment, we could provide more affordable housing options by allowing an additional dwelling unit on a property. This could allow residents to age in place by allowing them to remain in their home with a caretaker on site. This also allows other opportunities for families. They can move their aging parents in or their children. So there's opportunities here to benefit our residents, let them stay here in Belmont where we all like to be, and allow them to stay, age in place, and to allow people to retain independence and gain proximity. So there's benefits that help us specifically meet our goals. So what we have for you tonight is more detail on how to get there. You won't see a lot of drastic changes. We want to keep allowing what we already allow, just with modifications and updates. So at this time, Jamie Mendez is going to take over and talk to you about those details.
Hello, everyone. So when we started doing the research for this text amendment, we found that Charlotte, Matthews, Indian Trail, and Asheville all currently allow accessory dwelling units by right. The cities of Concord, Cornelius, Davidson, Gastonia, and Kannapolis all still allow accessory dwelling units either through a conditional use permit or a special use permit. The first chapter that we would propose an amendment to, of course, is Chapter 2 in our definitions. We came up with the definition of an accessory dwelling unit to be a secondary subordinate dwelling unit on a single-family residential lot that is either attached to or separate from the principal dwelling unit. On the bottom of the slide, you can see some examples of accessory dwelling units. The two units on the left and right would be considered detached accessory dwelling units. You can see the one on the left is not on top of a garage, whereas the one on the right is sitting above a two-car garage. The one in the middle is what they would consider an attached accessory dwelling unit, but we want to point out that we couldn't find a picture of what we would allow. So this accessory dwelling unit has its entrance on the same face as the principal dwelling unit. Our text amendment is proposing that the main entrance for accessory dwelling units should not be on the street front, unless that house is on a corner lot and it can face the other street that the principal unit is not already facing. So the next chapter that we would amend is Chapter 3, which is our general provisions chapter. There's a section in there that referenced rental cottage, so we went ahead and just kind of striked that out and put accessory dwelling unit in its place, and then have a reference to Chapter 6, which is where we list out all of the different requirements for an accessory dwelling unit. And then we also wanted to point out that we're changing the language from rental cottage to accessory dwelling unit because we're not supposed to be dictating what's used, or the use of this property and how its ownership is kind of working.
Is that throughout change that throughout?
So Chapter 5 is the big cleanup. We've added accessory uses as residential use in jurisdictions that allow accessory dwelling units, and then we took out rental cottages as a permitted lodging use wherever it was listed for each zoning jurisdiction. Chapter 6 is where we are going to add in all the additional requirements for accessory dwelling units, and that's what you have a copy of in front of you. So the basic changes are going to be accessory dwelling units, whether attached or detached, are going to be permitted in those zoning jurisdictions that are listed above. All accessory dwelling units must comply with applicable local, state, federal housing codes. They should be built using the same or similar in appearance building materials. One of the things we're also not allowed to regulate is the architecture of single-family homes, and this also applies to the accessory dwelling units. So we're saying should be built using the same or similar in appearance building materials. Additional landscaping may be required for the ADUs. This is referring back to that picture I was explaining where the front entrance of the ADU cannot face a public or private right-of-way unless the principal structure is on a corner lot. And then accessory dwelling units, whether attached or detached, will not be permitted on duplexes, single-family residential lots only. They may only be located in the side and rear yards, only one per lot. We have the square footage kind of max will be 50% or 900 square feet, so it'll be 50% of the principal structure. And this kind of goes with, we want these to be secondary dwelling units that are subordinate to the principal dwelling structures. They should never exceed 30% of the required rear yard. And then, let's see, K is one of the ones I do want to kind of get opinions on. At least one paved off-street parking space in addition to the already required parking spaces for the principal structure is required. And then the setbacks, as you can see on this image, so I kind of did a corner lot example and a regular lot example. For attached accessory dwelling units, we're proposing that they meet the current setbacks of the already existing property. However, if they're detached, we're proposing a 10-foot side and rear yard setback, and that kind of allows the structures to be pushed to the rear of the lot a little bit more. So that's kind of how it would look on a street or a corner lot versus a regular lot. And then on the corner lot, you can see very, very small. The front door of the accessory dwelling unit on the corner lot would face the side street versus the front street.
Do we have any in Belmont now?
Yes, next slide. So right now our challenges in writing this text amendment, we're kind of going back and forth with the parking requirement. Most cities require at least one off-street parking space, but we've had discussions about allowing on-street parking to count as the one required parking space if the street already allows on-street parking. So if the neighborhoods don't dictate off-street parking, on-street parking, or if the road is wide enough to allow for on-street parking, would we want to let that on-street parking count as the parking requirement? And then the structure height requirement, kind of what Melissa was explaining earlier. Right now, only Davidson sets a max height of 20, and then Chapter 3 of RLDC caps all accessory structures at 26 feet. So on the right-hand side, these are two pictures of accessory dwelling units that are in Belmont. The top one, as you can see, is going by what our current ordinance states, which is that it has to be built on top of a garage, and this resulted in a taller structure than the principal structure. And then the picture on the bottom shows an accessory dwelling unit that is more in line height-wise because it wasn't built on top of a garage or shed or anything like that.
And that was permitted that way because of the change in state law that you can't dictate floor plans. So we knew our ordinance that said, oh no, it had to be above a garage was in violation of state law. So state law trumps us. So when they requested to do an accessory unit, not above a garage, we had to permit it. We couldn't violate state law.
So we'd love to hear your comments on these two particular challenges, because we've kind of all got different opinions and been going back and forth on these two.
Is there a minimum size?
We did not include a minimum size, we just maxed it at 50%.
Or 900 square feet.
Or the 900 square feet, yes.
Yes.
So what, is there somewhere that it describes what the minimum requirements of a dwelling unit are?
We kind of took the standpoint that building code might dictate what a minimum square footage would be for a dwelling unit.
So a 10 by 15 studio, 150 square feet could be.
Building code.
Building code allows
Yeah,
it.
the building code steps in and says what's the minimum habitable space. We can look into that further, bring that back, but typically the building code. I know, I think in our minimum housing ordinance, it has a,
But I don't think that's.
Does building code specifically talk about accessory dwelling units?
I'll have to look, I can't.
Because I guess what I'm
Yeah.
this is eventually getting to are tiny
Someone has a
homes.
storage unit.
Yeah, they come in or buy the little metal ones you get from Lowe's and say, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
If you want to rent it out, if you want to live here, here it is.
Yes.
If it's allowed by zoning, then
Yeah.
I'm renting it out.
We would not, we don't have investigators. We don't see where people spend the night. We would rely
Well,
on
you could have
neighbors.
Yeah, you could have neighbors come in and talk about it.
I will say in our discussions, you were correct. There are standards that we will report back on. I can't remember if it's 150 for with a studio room and 75 feet for each additional bedroom. And so there are numbers that we'll report on. So that was our fail-safe to know that if it's a one-bedroom with a kitchen, it's going to have certain requirements that it has to meet.
And that's
Of the
all in the building
building
code, which
Yeah.
gets.
I guess also what I'm getting to, with a cottage, or the rental cottage was built on top of a garage, which means you can't really pre-manufacture the garage, you can't, and then, you got to actually build it on the site. This opens it up to off-site constructed units.
Sheds, essentially.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
An example would be the most sought-after Airbnb in Shelby is a bus that they have, that people rent out and live in a bus in these guys' backyard.
To me, there's a, yeah.
And that's called a dwelling unit, I would assume, in their zoning,
I think
but,
there's a little bit of a
yeah.
permanence. To me, it's got to have
Not a
it's
trailer.
got to have a foundation.
Yeah, Chapter 3 dictates that if it is no over 12 feet in any side, it has to be built on a permanent foundation.
Yeah, but you could.
Yeah, but you can drive
They
the
put
bus.
a lot of,
and
right,
dump it.
permanent foundations on,
So
Trailers.
let us, we did throw out some questions at what we call TRC, and Brian Skiba of Gaston County Building Inspections was there, and we probably didn't ask the right questions, but we will get with him and get those details, so the next time we bring it back, we have, and if we could get him to help report, that would be great.
Is there a limit to how many accessory buildings I can have?
One.
No, that's accessory dwelling unit. Is there a limit to how many accessory buildings I can have?
2.
So I can have a
Ordinance currently allows 2
I can have a
accessory
detached garage, because I was looking at that list of, which,
Yeah,
if you go back to
can have a
that.
detached garage and accessory dwelling unit.
So I can't have a gazebo if I have a detached garage and an accessory. You're saying I can only have 2 of all those?
Right. And that's how the ordinance reads now, so whether,
Well, it also says if you have large.
a large land, yes, so if you have multiple acres, you get additional square footage
Okay.
and so forth. But, so it goes by size, but the typical rule to most of our lots is you get 2.
So now my pool house can become an accessory dwelling unit. If it's already existing.
Yeah, they would have to get, what, a change in use to call it an accessory dwelling unit.
Well,
That way you can ensure it's in the building code for
Some point.
a habitable space on a permanent basis.
If you've already got 2, you're gonna have to add on to your house. So you have options. You might not like them, but you
Right.
have options.
Okay.
Couple of things here. In item J, accessory dwelling units shall never exceed 30%. Why not? What we using that now? Why is the word never in there? Shall not exceed. I mean, it's just a minor point.
We can change that.
All right.
We can change it
Never is a
to
strong
shall
word.
not, period, and never.
Well, whatever, shall not
Yeah.
exceed. I mean,
Yeah.
never just sound like, whoa,
Yeah.
geez. Yeah, so-
Yeah, we can change that.
And then G, my favorite word only, it's be located only in the side or rear yards. This whole grammar thing, that's all.
Well, and then in F, I mean, we point out, will not be permitted on duplexes. I mean, you could have triplex. I mean,
Right, but you have to, for a tripod, you need a multifamily.
do you need,
So
When you go-
so
yeah,
a
you
duplex
have-
is a specific,
Duplexes are considered by the building code on a single-family use,
Okay.
so.
so I,
In a
but,
single-family
The word owns
zone,
would make, it would, own, what's that mean?
yeah.
That could be changed.
I mean, I would actually just change it to say is only allowed with single-family structures. Because then in the future, if this, something changes or whatnot, you're not in conflict. I think it just cleans it up.
Which
Yeah.
one are you on?
okay. So
F.
which one was that?
That's F.
F.
F,
Just clarifies intent.
clarify.
Okay, so if I get this right, I'm looking at this, I'm trying to think about this, because like,
Will be permitted only on something?
Single family?
single-family.
On single-family lots.
Yep. So I'm looking at this, so my restrictions here are either 50, may not exceed 50% of the square footage of the principal structure or 900 square feet, and cannot exceed 30% of the rear yard.
Right.
Okay.
And that's about the footprint.
That's the
right?
That's
footprint.
that footprint, right.
So could, you
So I
still
have
could build a two-story.
20 by 20 structure.
You still have to, yes.
I'd have to-
But then you
abide
gotta
by
meet
the
the height
setback.
requirement,
That's
yeah,
it. So
right,
you have to get the height and the square footage, we count.
26 is pretty
floors.
easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing like a 1.5, is what I could see if you're doing, you wouldn't just do a stacked two-story. Yeah, I do think looking into the tiny home, because that's where it's gonna come in, because that's what I hear the most people talk about. And those come in a box, basically, you know, they get delivered and you put them together. Is that what we're gonna allow
Instructions included.
people to do, right?
The other
So
is
again,
shipping
goes with the building
containers.
code, right?
Shipping containers are now getting to
Yes.
be
Yeah.
a
Okay.
commodity.
Yes.
It would be a container.
Hey,
Right.
is it something the code says you can't do?
On stuff like that, Gaston County is gonna make the person prove that it meets North Carolina building code. Nobody can do that, because the code doesn't apply to buses. The bus doesn't
Or
meet North Carolina
container.
building code. And that might have flown in Cleveland County. It's not gonna fly here.
But going on down the line, when we're not here, should there be some language in there which specifies the uses that are not allowed?
I think it should be built on site. That's what I would
It has to be
prefer.
stick-built.
Can we dictate that?
Yeah, right, can you do that?
I don't know.
Permanent foundation,
Because I heard her say.
I mean, but are we opposed to the?
allow modular
kind of like the
homes,
mini
which,
suite
you know.
type thing?
Well, you can, you can get a really nice house.
And they're really nice, I'm not saying they're not nice, but I just,
Brought in with
I was just thinking about all the,
What it is
If
that you gotta be able to not have them
So we
mobile
need to
home.
check on
Not
minimum
have the spray.
sizes,
I
related
agree,
to dwelling units and building code. We are concerned that we have to clarify some language. Then you asked about, are we looking at tiny homes? And I guess we'd have to check if someone builds a tiny home and it complies with building code.
I mean, I don't oppose the tiny homes, but I agree, I do oppose.
other than
like,
the quality
someone,
of
like,
construction and.
wheeling up a mobile home behind their backyard.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, but what's a mobile home?
But I mean, you can put a mobile home
I
on.
think Davidson separates the modular and mobile home from the accessory dwelling unit and has a different set of regulations for.
And so do we.
Yeah. modular
And I would also think about people with their RVs.
No,
They don't
because
somehow try to get into this
our ordinance
regulation.
prohibits that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't use.
Okay.
You can't put a mobile home in a backyard unless, I think, you could use it in the rural residential, I think it allows it in the primary home. Because we had somebody
Secondary.
recently want to put a mobile home
As an
behind their
accessory.
single-family home, and we told them no. You know, it couldn't count as a rental, nothing, they tried everything, we're like, no, we can't.
Yeah, I mean,
So that's a definite no, but I have to investigate the tiny homes, make sure, talk to the building inspector about things like buses and seatingers and stuff to ensure that we have a great understanding, something doesn't have to put in.
Just because it can become a dwelling.
Yes,
Yeah.
that there's a loophole, so.
Right.
Clarify the size issue, you know, how small, how large. Well,
And-
we have parameters on large, but what's the minimum for habitable space?
And are these all connected to the same water and sewer as the primary house?
Yeah, so
They
we talked
can't.
about that with utility department, and they said it would be up to the residents on how they want to separate the utilities, but it wouldn't change anything on their end.
Well, I would envision that most of them would want it to be on the same one so they don't have to pay
So they don't have to pay tap fee.
for fees and from a tax purpose too, I would imagine.
I guess some of them will be on septic.
Yeah, if you're on septic, they would have to get a
Either
permit probably to
improve-
make
yeah,
sure that it
improve the
fits
size
the
of their
bedroom
tank or-
counts.
That it
Yeah.
perks.
But I'm thinking about in the city
Yeah.
with city
Yeah, in the
taps.
city. So building code size.
Especially where you've got an older home that already has old infrastructure, and there you go add another dwelling tapped into that same old
Yeah.
infrastructure.
Well, yeah, sometimes we have that situation in some of our older mill communities, you know, they'll put an accessory structure
Right.
and tap in, and that stuff does get inspected by our field inspectors. So, what else would you like us to?
Parking, please.
Yes, the parking.
Brainstorm,
So,
parking, yeah.
on the parking, I mean, we originally sort of followed suit with all the other jurisdictions saying you have to have an on-site parking. And then we started talking about, well, we need to make sure it's paved. And then we started thinking about, well, if you have a smaller lot and you suddenly need 3 parking spots, are we going to end up with half of the front of this house in parking concrete? And so, you know, we started thinking about going, well, it would meet the code, but that's not really what we want. And so we started thinking about options, and we thought about, well, you know, we have many neighborhoods that have on-street parking, and if you have a garage and a parking pad, which technically people really parked in the garages, you'd have 2 spaces there and 2 spaces in the driveway that, you know, you could have, would you consider allowing this accessory unit tenant to park on the street for if it's wide enough and it's already used for on-street parking, or do you want it on site? And so it was just something that came up because we started envisioning how this would really look. Well, yeah, we want it to be concrete. Well, now we have 3 parking spots side by side, and the whole front yard of the house.
Or they're parked in front of the house on the street.
Yeah, they're all parked in, they're meeting our code.
That's right.
Is that really what we want? So,
Well, if you don't want people parking in front of their house on the street.
well, I don't mind people parking
Oh,
on the
okay, well, if
street.
you don't mind, then.
Just
As long as it's a
because-
street that is
allows it.
appropriate for
Yeah, so
it,
if
yeah.
it's, you know, there are neighborhoods that say parking on one side only and so forth. And if the neighborhood allows parking on the street, I mean, parking on the street can slow down traffic. It depends how wide the road is and so forth, so.
I mean, can we have language that would allow for the option of a waiver of that if on-street parking is available?
Sure, we could write it any way you'd like.
Yeah.
It's maybe the way to do it. You have the one
So
extra
there's
parking
discretion.
if it's on a property without
Or
on-street
you-
parking available.
Or you could have the wording that says you have to have one and you need a waiver not to have it. In other
And would
words,
they come before this board for the waiver?
I don't know that would be necessary. I think that would be something that that somebody in town could figure out whether to grant a waiver or not. I mean, I wouldn't want to get in that
To me, the
business.
reasons would be because there's on-street
Sounds like
parking
conditional use.
Yeah.
accessible to that party, so
Yeah.
then
I just
to
imagine
waive it.
as neighborhoods become more dense and we're
Right.
providing that as a piece of infrastructure, I mean, they should be able to utilize it. Where we have larger lots and they're gonna have to, it's positioned way in the back corner of the lot, there's
They should do it
plenty of
on
space
site,
to.
yeah.
Yeah, there's-
I agree.
Yeah, there's enough room. My attitude is, you have to have a parking spot to go with it. And then, if you want a waiver, you gotta make your case to the whoever.
I think you need to look at that, like, my house, I can park like 5 cars on it.
Yeah.
And so if we put one on, not that I would do this, but to have to put another pad on would be a lot of
Well,
concrete.
but you have,
Well, that's-
well, no, but if
But
you
to be
have,
able to come in and say,
say,
look,
I've got
got
this,
space all over.
Right.
I think the wording is, if you want to put an additional dwelling unit on your lot, then there has to be sufficient parking available, or you have to add one to preclude on-street
Right,
parking.
that's how we would look at it in the first place.
Yeah, so in your
Question
case, you
was
can put
more
on, you
about
wouldn't have
whether
to.
they
just show 'em.
consider it
Yeah, hey, this is what I got, it's
a
plenty, yeah, go ahead,
unique
march off.
Situation where.
That's my thought.
And so we could work on something like that and.
What is 26 feet measured to? The peak, the midline of the roof, the
Right?
tip of the roof?
The very top.
Top point.
From
The ridge.
ground level, giving the property owner the most beneficial measurement if it's on the slope. So not measuring, if it's 28 in back, 26 in front,
Be like the
they're okay.
average.
So, I mean, I could have a walkout basement,
Yeah, but it's only-
but from the upper portion, it
be
could be
one sto-
26, but it could be 36 from the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, but you only got 900 square feet.
But you're only gonna be able to see.
300 square feet,
Right. Oh, you can build it in your hole in your backyard. You remember where that pool was?
Bungee jump
Did we
off the
permit
back.
it?
Oh, then,
Brad did.
that's where you make the
The
garage.
garage,
So
yeah.
then it-
Because usually I'm used to seeing that you measure.
It says heated.
Average
I said, that's-
grade.
Is that a requirement for dwelling? I don't know that
We
it is.
just brought a good one up.
Yes.
I can build a 3-story unit on a sloping lot and have a garage, and I can build 900 square feet of heated space and still have a 3-story building on one side.
Well, our code says the maximum you get is 2.5 stories for a single-family dwelling.
There's a building height, there's a definition, if somebody has
I
their
don't know.
code about measuring it from street grade or something like that. So the back doesn't count.
But you still are limited to 2.5 stories.
Correct.
A
But
2.5 story
is a
home.
basement a story? I don't.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
there's a
consider it
way
to
that
be
it's
a
defined.
story.
A story's defined in the ordinance, because we talked about that with regard to a rooftop, is that no more than 3/4 of it can be.
Oh, we play games like this all the time.
Yeah.
I know, right?
So we need to work
We
on
we make it work.
vertical distance from the mean grade elevation
From the
taken
mean
at the
grade.
fronting street.
Taken
Side
at
of
the-
the-
At the fronting
Okay.
street.
Okay.
That's what I think, street.
But doesn't it say something about how you define a story though, in there too, and if you're limited to 2.5 stories, that
That
was.
doesn't have this story.
Well,
But what creates the half a story? You either got a second floor, or you don't have a second. floor.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
half.
either
a second
26 feet or it's not.
I have a 1.5
Well,
story.
the house is different from the accessory story.
Yeah, so
The
a house
accessory
is
building
limited
is
to
26, the house is
2.5.
2.5.
Stories.
So whatever I can cram in 26 feet,
On the frontage of the road, at the median.
but in the back.
elevation.
Well, accessory structure
Just
wouldn't be
checking.
on the front of the road.
Yeah.
Well, no, but
It only means
the average
everyone,
grade.
but-
I'm just- Yeah. So
So,
you're talking to architects who, we monkey with those. things
Right,
all the time.
they take your rules and
it's typically I've seen ordinance be the average grade is how you
And
measure
then look at
height.
Yes.
trying
Right.
to build
And-
that
Supposed
sucker.
And if our ordinance isn't that, we'll probably come back with a text amendment with that, because it should be that way.
Should be.
It should be, yes, I agree with that.
If you're not gonna require like a garage or a workshop underneath, could you limit it to the height of the principal dwelling, so you don't end up with,
Yeah, 26 feet or
26 feet
the great
dwellings over one
lesser
story
of.
houses?
Right.
Well, yeah, that's what we brought to you, because right now our ordinance says it can be 26 feet, and you can see from the example.
Right
where it's
there.
above
That
the
is
garage,
that is
I drove
very
by
high.
there- I drove by there and I sort of hit my brakes, and I said, whoa, what's going on over there? And it was all permitted, and it was according to the ordinance,
There's
and it was fine.
another one over on
Or
Quincy as
accessory
But it sort
well.
of sticks out.
So
as
you're
to what
trying to-
drive that.
They
Yeah.
exceeded, it was a one-story
For some
house and
reason,
they've
you've
now
got a
exceeded
two-story
that,
house
and that's what you
already.
see as you
Yeah.
come down on
It's already
Quincy,
existing.
is their garage with a
Well,
building
yeah.
over it.
Going,
So-
I mean, I don't
So
mind,
that's our
you could build a
question to
two-story
you,
building, another one
is
in
do
the
we
back
want to
against the
restrict
one-story,
the height of these
down the other side of
accessory
the street,
dwelling
get your
units
back
to
neighbor.
not exceed the height
Of the primary.
Yeah.
It's just to get some.
That would be good wording.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because.
Well, and if you got a detached garage on a one-story building, then you're
Or
out of
three-story.
luck, aren't you? You can't do
Those are
it,
three-story.
right?
They could build onto the back of the
2.5 as they
garage
call
and
it.
make it
Yeah.
a
You
unit.
could build a garage,
If
two
they got roofs.
level on it, another level on it behind.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have to
So
measure.
Or they
that.
could attach
There's a game you
it,
gotta
yeah.
know what's,
Increase
Yeah.
the stories of your.
But go
That's why I
back,
was
you had a
thinking the
good
lesser- the
picture
lesser,
of one
I've
above the
got that.
garage, and it looked good, because it's sort of, I'm sure it's a low garage when you're in there. One of your pictures,
Frozen.
oh, you're frozen. Anyway,
But I would look at that one on Quincy, you'll see what
On
I'm
Quincy?
talking about. And they covered a lot of that lot.
really?
I mean, you look, there's not a lot of uncovered lot now on that one, I don't know.
See, on a single-family lot, you're only allowed 50% lot coverage.
That one's real close. Somebody better measure that one.
Is that impervious or
Is it on the
what?
corner?
Impervious.
And on the corner of Quincy and Southern.
Yeah, I think that was one of the ones that pushed it right to the.
Yeah, it's gotta
I only have a
be.
couple of those that pushed it around, but.
I'm not saying that it doesn't look good, other than now you drive down that street and you see that first
kind of,
instead of the old
yeah.
house that was there.
And is there any, I know we're talking about like, either older people being able to live in them or children of parents, but I could see a lot of like Airbnb and that, and is that gonna?
We don't have any
Any-
kind of restrictions on Airbnb in our jurisdiction.
See, what will happen is, Mom,
And we have Airbnbs in
I
Belmont.
would say, you know,
sure.
if you were entrepreneuring, you could say, okay, we're gonna go live in the auxiliary building and rent out the main house.
Well, no, I put 5 beds in the auxiliary one.
You
Rent it out
could
as
do it
a-
that way. Well,
as a
some people do
Yeah.
it differently.
There's I can think of at least a dozen Airbnbs all in the downtown area even.
Yeah, there's.
People renting out their own homes,
Yeah.
but as they're living in them
Yeah.
now.
Right.
There are a lot of rooms. A lot of Duke Energy employees staying in them too.
Who?
Duke Energy.
Oh,
Oh,
do they,
they
do
do
they
the
need
room.
temporary
This is
housing?
creepy.
Hmm. Well, somebody can, I guess that would be called short-term rental versus you have a renter. Because what we're proposing, the accessory dwelling unit can be rented, or it can, be a family member and so forth.
So the question is, you want it to be higher than a single level house or not? It's a binary question.
That's what we were putting out to the board, how you felt about it. Or if they want to go higher, we could push it to a special use permit or a conditional use permit where it's taken into consideration on a case-by-case basis.
I like a conditional use permit because that one doesn't have to
Doesn't
come
come
before
through
us.
us. It bypasses the planning board. But the conditional use permit, then it could still be considered, but it would be at a council level.
And it would be it would be a
case-by-case basis.
bingo, there you go.
The neighbors that could be impacted
Right.
would have a voice.
Where now they didn't, I mean,
Right, now they
even
don't.
these that you
No.
have, I mean, the
It's fine.
shadowing that puts on the backyard of the house
Bingo.
behind, and so much downtown is one story.
I'm a favor
You
of that
know,
conditional use
so
permit.
I think if it's bigger than the main dwelling, they ought to have to just have everybody look at it.
Is that what happened to the one down here, the one on Woods Road? You said it met all the regulations,
Yeah,
and it's taller than
It's
the...
taller, yeah.
If you go to it and you look at the back, fortunately, it's a business that's behind it, the law office, but
That's
the
what's in the
shadow
accessory?
behind this accessory, no.
Oh,
The
oh,
house that's behind
behind.
it, but it shadows her whole, what would be a backyard. Fortunately for them, it's a parking lot, so it was probably not an issue there. But it could have been, had that been somebody's garden, and now you've shadowed it, completely by how tall that structure is. And they may not have built that had they not had to do a garage down, just knowing what they need to use that for. So, I mean, I don't know.
So
We
do we
just-
have a consensus that, on the height, that, if you want to exceed the height of the primary structure,
Well, I think there needs to be a strict limit on the height. So it's like 20 or 26 feet or whatever it is. So it's the lesser of 26 feet, or the height of the existing structure or 26 feet. Because you could have easily a
True.
house that's over 26 feet.
Right, one of these bigger
Yeah.
houses here
Oh,
on
yeah.
Main Street
Yes.
that are 2.5 stories. I mean,
whichever's less.
yeah.
So-
Yes, the
so-
lesser
so we say
of.
that the lesser of, so
Yeah.
that, we have other regulations like that, if that's what.
Yeah.
So that way, if someone has a two-story house and they have a garage in back and wants the unit above there, they're still.
Yeah, they have a way
They
of,
want to see 26 feet and.
yeah.
Then what are we gonna tell people when they point to this one down here?
That they
Well, they
built
came
before
before
they
the
were-
Don't do that anymore?
Well, yeah, that's right. Yep, that's right. We saw them and
don't
said
do it
no.
Yeah.
We messed
So,
up.
and we didn't make it tear it down.
Happens all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
The rules change.
So, and that's how sometimes until something's built, you don't test out ordinances until something's built. You've seen how the regulations actually, the outcome. And then you sometimes take a step back and say, yes, that's something that we were really envisioning. Because they comply with all the regulations.
It's like changing the speed limit on that road. It was 45 and now it's 35.
Okay, so be agreeable with regard to height, then you have the lesser of,
If they're really
same
slow down,
size,
go
up
back.
to 26 max. Lesser, okay. So the height, so we're gonna still bring back the other information. Parking, say, on site.
Unless
know how to.
they get a conditional use permit.
It's the waiver.
Or a waiver.
Or a waiver, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, a waiver.
One window
so,
and a door in it or something.
As decided
I don't know how
by,
you
you fill in the blank. Not me.
So next steps is we're going to take feedback from this meeting, do more research, and then if extra meetings are warranted, and we would do those as well. After that, we would formally present this text amendment to the planning board. board and then the city council.
So the next time we bring it back, do you want us to bring it back as a discussion item, again, like we did tonight, and see, or do you want us to do the research and get a draft and bring it back?
What would you prefer?
I think it can be
It
ready.
depends how much work you think you guys want. We can try to bring it back as a draft.
Well, I'll tell you what,
If
if
it's
you-
not ready, we can,
If you think it's not ready, you can tell us where we are. If otherwise, if you got it ready, then we'll vote
we'll
on it.
send it, we'll make sure, of course, you have it ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah,
That way,
yeah.
if you guys see
Sure.
a problem, we can.
And we can vote
Try
to-
to head that off at the meeting.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, that's.
Whatever's convenient for you all. I mean, you got a lot of stuff going on.
And this wouldn't impact any neighborhood that has HOA regulations anyway.
Right.
They would supersede any of those development communities.
I get three.
So we're really only talking
I'm
about
trying to figure out how.
downtown mostly.
Our
We
older
can't-
area,
we can't-
yeah.
Yeah, doesn't affect the
People could do
HOAs.
it.
Yeah.
They get their own,
We can't actually.
according
But,
to the
you know,
state
we
law.
were
What it
trying not
looks
to make
like.
something
No.
so
I know,
restrictive,
so
but the
it's like-
intent
You can
behind
get
it is to try to
Well, with modern
allow
buildings,
people
everybody's doing little
to
modern
age in
boxes now.
place.
Right.
It's really easy to
And
do that.
whether they need a little
Not
second
cheap.
income,
Yeah,
young
you
couples.
do a cool one.
I mean, I see this,
It may
well, I
not-
used to see this all the time in California. Before a house was even occupied, brand new house, it had a dwelling unit, accessory dwelling unit above the garage, because that's the only way they could afford the house, is they already
Yes.
had to move in with supplemental income. So that happens in an area where housing's tight, and it's just the way it was there. They just came online with an accessory unit on it, and they had to be allowed by right. State law said you had to allow it by right, and so forth, so.
Well, I'll ask this question then, because I know Lennar specifically has a multifamily plan house, and I believe they couldn't do that back when they wanted to build Stowe Point. They couldn't use that plan because it was, you know what, they have a name for it, a generational house or something.
Really?
It's like- it's almost like
And that was my understanding. So if we do this, does that open it up
Yeah, it
to
would.
HO, or to
No,
developers
Right,
now
so
coming?
the
Ones I've seen,
developer
it's just
came in
two
and wanted
units.
to
In other words, you're
have an option where
lines of wall
something
between
already
them.
has
Lines of wall
accessory
between them.
dwelling unit, whether it's
you
above
actually,
the garage
from
or
what I know
however, if
from
it met the
ours,
code, it could be developed
you
as
can, you actually
one.
communicate,
Yeah, there shouldn't be any
Yeah.
reason.
but everybody, it's
I
like
can
Just thinking
imagine-
out loud.
It's like a-
Yeah, no, but
two
again,
plans.
I used to see that all the time.
Yeah, two bedrooms,
because
two bedrooms,
affordable
whatever.
housing
Well,
is
this,
such a problem.
their plans with Lennar, I know, are all under one roof.
Yeah.
It's just, some have like a secondary entrance on a side, some is just the floor plan within the structure. But I understood from them when they built that neighborhood that none of those plans were approved because it was, I guess, considered multifamily, do you remember? Okay.
Because you don't want to.
That's what I hear from sales reps. And they do them in other areas now. I think they're doing them down Fort Mill and whatnot, but I don't know
You just-
if
there
that
is
will
Yeah,
come
they'll
up
do, yeah.
or not.
Okay, so if something else,
I think it came out of California.
just an idea in the middle of the night pops in your head.
We'll text
We'll give you a call right away.
Don't worry.
Jamie Mendoza, phone number. But, you know, seriously, if something comes on mind, where there's a question, or you just, something pops up and it's an idea, or something you've seen elsewhere, please send the information. We're glad to research it. We want to try to make sure it's well vetted.
Okay. Anything else about this good discussion, folks? Thank you very much. We have to make sure these two guys don't sit next to each other.
I was gonna suggest that too. You're only time out.
Just remember, it's not cheating until you get caught.
That's right.
Good crowd, Bubba.
Someone's gotta say boo.
Anything else tonight? Anything else? Anything
Yes,
else?
sir.
Motion to adjourn from someone.
So move.
Second.
For adjourn.
Thank you.
And of course, tomorrow night is the last Friday Night Live.
Yep.